What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on FantasyPros with a 10-team full PPR mock where we will be drafting 10th overall, the final pick in the draft. So it should be pretty interesting. Our roster, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. But that's pretty much it. So let's get to it. And while we wait for this thing to load, a quick reminder, if you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter, X at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comment section, your thoughts, along with any other questions you guys might have. We'll do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let us transition into this draft, which is underway. We are on the clock and looking at the draft board to begin with. So we're going to break this down. Up until now, we've done a couple of early mocks. They've all been 12-team mocks, so this is a little bit different. Obviously, we're going to do a bunch of 10-teamers, 12-teamers as we get closer to the start of the season, and everything in between. But this being the first 10-team mock, obviously, I want to highlight that. I'm going to point out that these rosters are going to be a little bit more top-heavy. There's going to be more depth, all these things. But other than that, not too many differences. So the first 10 picks, right? Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson. Not too crazy. CD, Justin Jefferson. I imagine that this is probably similar to how the first 3-4 wide receivers taken off the board will look like, with CD, Justin, Neighbors, and Amon-Ra probably being the favorites there. Then a couple of running backs here that I really like in the middle of the first round. Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, A-Chain. Honestly, A-Chain is a guy where I had seen him drop in the second round like a couple of weeks ago, and I kept saying, hey, that's not accurate. It shouldn't be like this. And if that continues to happen, he's going to be a great value. And, maybe it's just this mock right now, but as you can see, that's not the case anymore. Malik Neighbors then, followed by Amon-Ra St. Brown. So no issues with any of these picks. And I think we're in a decent spot to go ahead and get some pretty solid pieces here. I think Ashton Jeanty is really intriguing here with the last pick in the first round. Obviously, somebody like a McCaffrey or a Derrick Henry. Also tempting with McCaffrey, you do have the injury risk where with that first pick, you do want to minimize some of that risk. Let's be honest. Derrick Henry, very, very solid option. He's getting up there in age, but he just signed an extension, so it seems like he's got some more left in the tank. And even though he is more suited in standard scoring formats, if the touchdown upside remains, he should be fine. But I think the way to do this here, I think you go with the high draft capital rookie rusher in Ashton Jeanty, and then hopefully we'll see maybe somebody like a Kyren Williams drops to us, and we get another good wide receiver as that 1-2 punch. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's grab Ashton Jeanty with our first pick. And again, while we could go McCaffrey here, it would be tempting. Lock down the running backs. I will be a little bit more disciplined. I'm going to go with a wide receiver. I'm looking at these receivers. Puka, Nico Collins, Brian Thomas. Puka does have Davante Adams there now, so we'll see how much that impacts things. Nico, yes, the Texans added other wide receivers, but I think he's still the alpha. Drake London is somebody that I like as well in that next category. A.J. Brown. I think these are all solid choices. I'm going to go with the number one that I think is kind of the safest, that's had the solid production the last couple of years in a row. I'm going to go with Nico Collins. Puka Nacua was a very, very close second. I just think that Davante Adams might maybe a little bit take away from him, but we'll see. We'll see how things pan out. And honestly, Davante Adams being available here, I'm kind of cheating, right? In this third round is tempting, but let's take a look at these next couple of selections. So after we went Nico Collins, it was Brian Thomas, Puka Nacua. So a lot of those wide receivers we mentioned, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Drake London, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. A lot of people are expecting a big breakout season from him, considering Metcalf and Lockett are gone, even though, that breakout, we saw it last year. Brock Bowers, Josh Allen, first quarterback off the board. Bowers was the first tight end off the board. I imagine that'll be the case, even though I think McBride has a very, very solid, you know, case to be heard there as well. McCaffrey at the 210, followed by Ladd McConkey. Then the aforementioned McBride, followed by Garrett Wilson, Tyreek, Rashid Rice. Man, how the mighty have fallen with Tyreek going in the third round here. But again, considering the age, considering the inconsistency of quarterback, and just the inconsistencies he had last year when he was healthy-ish, it's like there's concerns there. Then Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, Alvin Kamara ahead of some of these other running backs that are still on the board. I think that's pretty crazy. And then Lamar Jackson. So here, I was saying, man, it'd be great if we had Kyren Williams fall to us. We've got Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor both here. I think that's the easy one too. And by doing so, we have the running back position on lockdown. I'm not going to lie to you. Yes, somebody like a Higgins and a Devontae Adams are tempting, but I just think with running backs, the injuries that you have there. Also, we did go with a rookie rusher. You never know. Yes, he's got the high draft capital, but you never know what will happen. I've had drafts in 12-teamers where Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor are just our two starting running backs. Here, getting both of them, I think, is a really, really solid situation. Now, we'll see what happens with Jonathan Taylor in the quarterback room in Indianapolis, but he was very, very efficient last year to end off the year. I'm going to go ahead and draft him here, and I think we might see a little bit of a running back run, so maybe it pays off, and if so, I will make sure to highlight it. But yeah, obviously when Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor, then Mixon, James Cook, there goes those next couple of wide receivers when T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, Breece Hall, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. So Jaden Daniels is going to be in that, top 3, top 4 quarterbacks, depending on how you feel about Jalen Hurts. Coming off the rookie season he had, makes sense. Mike Evans, Kenneth Walker here. Then to kick off the 5th round, DJ Moore, Devontae Adams, Kyren Williams, Chuba Hubbard there, really good values. Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, Joe Burrow, Sutton, Zay Flowers. I do think the tight ends after Brock Bowers and Trey McBride kind of leave a lot to be desired. So I think unless you spend up for a top-notch tight end this year, it's probably better just to wait it out. I'm looking at the other tight ends. There's Sam LaPorta. By his standards, or I should say by the standards that he put together his rookie year, he had a disappointing sophomore year, but who knows? Jonnu Smith, do you really trust him to duplicate what he did last year in Miami? He's not that consistent. Evan Ingram, new home in Denver. Travis Kelce, old as dirt. Mark Andrews, too inconsistent of a passing attack there. David Njoku, so many quarterbacks, you don't know what's going to happen. So, maybe here, this being a 10-team league, we try and get the positional advantage as much as we can at tight end. And go with the Sam LaPorta at this point in time. But first, I'm going to get my second wide receiver, and it's going to be Marvin Harrison. I think Marvin Harrison can bounce back this year, and, you're getting him at a discount similar to what you did with Malik Neighbors last year and Marvin Harrison, that situation. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison here. I think that looking at these wide receivers that we had available to us, it's a situation I like. Like DK Metcalf here, you're banking on Aaron Rodgers ending up in Pittsburgh, even though he probably will. I'm going to wait until that's official. Devonta Smith, number 2 in Philly. Olave, there's been some trade rumors surrounding him. Also, you've got a new quarterback there. So I think we're going to go elsewhere. I'm not going to go running back. I'm going to go tight end, like I said, try and get the positional advantage. It's a little bit more important in this 10-team leagues. So we had kind of passed up on the quarterbacks, didn't get one of those top-end rushing ones. So I'm going to go with a tight end here in Sam LaPorta and see how that pans out, and then break down some of these next selections as well. And hopefully we can, nab some guys that are solid values. Ooh, RJ Harvey immediately drafted after our guy LaPorta. I bring him up every single draft, but I think that after Jeanty, he's going to be the rookie rusher to know. And this draft reflects that. He's the second rookie running back selected after Jeanty. So I think that people are coming along to that idea of mine. Then Jonnu Smith, DK Metcalf, Xavier Worthy. I think a little bit too early for him, but we'll see. James Conner, Omarion Hampton. But like you've got Najee Harris there. I don't think Hampton is the choice yet. Like he's a 2026 pick in my opinion. Devonta Smith, Chris Olave, Kelsey, Mahomes, Monty, Caleb Johnson. Like again, you've got Jalen Warren there. I think you're looking at committee situations with a lot of these running backs. That's why the clear-cut guys, the Gentys, the Harveys, like I'm targeting those guys. Travis Hunter, Chris Godwin, Kyler Murray, Jalen Waddle, Dak, and Jerry Jeudy. So let's look at the cheat sheet here for a little bit of an easier breakdown. Let's see how many teams actually have a quarterback so I can kind of cheat off of that and see if I actually need to draft one. Yes, 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 yes. They don't have a quarterback. Yes, 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 yes. So, I mean, right now, the way this draft board goes, like, I'd be okay with, I guess, if you're looking for upside, a Bo Nix. I don't know if he's going to duplicate the season he had last year. It's a big if. If not Nix, then probably somebody like a Jared Goff, and then get a Caleb Williams for high upside. So we can think about that. If we go running back here for another guy, probably Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift. I think Quinshon Judkins for Cleveland is also pretty interesting. Could potentially be the number one guy there. High draft capital associated with him. Tyrone Tracy's intriguing, but Cam Scataboot in New York is a little bit worrisome. So here, I think we're going to go with another wide receiver with our next pick. I think Rome Odunze is intriguing. The worry for me is there enough offensive talent in Chicago at the quarterback position and just the schemes they're going to use to sustain multiple fantasy relevant wide receivers? I've said it before, I wouldn't be shocked if Rome Odunze is the number one wide receiver, from a fantasy output perspective in Chicago. So that's something to look at. I think that Calvin Ridley with a new quarterback is also intriguing. But look, if I believe that Caleb Williams is going to break out, I think Rome Odunze here is a solid value pick. Like a lot of these guys are just number twos. That's what we're dealing with. Addison, Jameson Williams. I've already got LaPorta, so I'm going to avoid it. George Pickens, opposite. CD, Tedero McMillan. I just think there's too many bodies in Carolina. So I'm left with Odunze, Calvin Ridley. So let's go with Odunze here and add another wide receiver. Because, we've only got Nico and Marvin Harrison up until this point. So let's add Rome Odunze. And now we could, I think going somebody like Judkins here is a solid upside pick. Henderson in New England. Again, you've got Ramondre there, so not too sure. Let's go with Judkins, like I said, and see how this thing pans out. I was about to say I think there's going to be a run on the running back position, and when you look at the draft board, you're going to see that I was right. So after Calvin Ridley, there were Swift, Jordan Addison, but Henderson, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, Pacheco. You see all the blue. Javonte Williams, Brian Robinson, Jalen Warren. So Baker Mayfield was selected here. That means our gamble to wait on Bo Nix is going to pay off. So let's just do that here. Somewhat upside-ish rushing option at quarterback, and then I'm going to get a Caleb Williams or a Jared Goff as, a pick to go ahead and stabilize that position if we need it. And also, look, all those wide receivers are still there. There was just a little bit of a bigger priority on other positions. So Brandon Aiyuk being the number one wide receiver right now in San Francisco, I think could be solid value. Jacoby Myers, just steady production. If you're going for, high upside, I guess you go maybe a George Pickens if you think that offense is going to take off, a Jameson Williams. So it's going to be between Aiyuk and Juwan Jennings in San Francisco. It's close. Maybe I just go with the boring but steady pick in a Jacoby Myers. Problem is I've already got Ashton Jeanty. I don't want to invest too much into that Raiders offense. Let's go. I'm going to go with my gut here and go with Brandon Aiyuk. And I think that he's still going to have the slight edge over a Juwan Jennings. I might be wrong, but we go with Brandon Aiyuk here, and then we've pretty much got just 2 more picks to make. And again, what I pointed out before, right? Like a lot more of a top-heavy roster here. Look at the running backs: Jeanty, Jacobs, Taylor, Judkins, wide receivers: Nico, Marvin Harrison, Odunze, Aiyuk. We were also able to get LaPorta. So here, question is, do we want to go with? Again, there was a huge run on other positions, not wide receiver. So there was a run on, let's just take a look at it. Big running back run, right? Exactly. So I'm probably going to go with the with a wide receiver and then a quarterback, as I mentioned, just to get our situation a little bit more stable at quarterback in case Bo Nix struggles. So here, I could go with Jacoby Myers or Juwan Jennings. Like I already drafted Aiyuk, so it makes a little bit more sense to go Jacoby Myers. So let's do that. And then quarterback, I'm going to go with Jared Goff. I do like Caleb Williams. I think he's going to break out, but I'll just go for the more sure thing at this point in time. Yes, I know Ben Johnson is no longer there, but I don't think Jared Goff is all of a sudden going to fall off a cliff. Still a stacked offense. And hopefully, we're not even in a situation where we need to rely on him. Hopefully, Bo Nix just does great. So let's see the draft grade that we get. I think overall is a pretty solid roster. C+. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that we knocked it out of the park with running backs. Like our trio of running backs is awesome. We got Nico Collins, and I think we got really good value in Marvin Harrison. LaPorta, I think, is one of the better tight end options you're going to get. I like the value we got on Bo Nix. And then our bench, like Odunze, Judkins, Aiyuk, Myers, I think it's just a stable bench. So I think this is a higher grade, but hey, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comments, and we will see you guys in future